We have lived infertility. We have lived so many elements of the journey. There is a member of our team for every single possible infertility issue that could be out there. So we have experienced all of the pain points that our community has experienced, and we are customer obsessed.
Welcome back to the Fitt Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Veneri. Today I'm joined by Sam Diamond, co-founder and CEO of Bird&Be. In this episode, we explore the future of fertility care. Sam shares how her own fertility journey led to creating personalized supplements and at-home tests. Plus, she talks about partnering with medical professionals to develop and distribute their products. Let's get into it. The Fitt Insider Podcast is brought to you by Jack Taylor, our exclusive PR partner. More than just PR, they're creative storytellers and brand builders who actually understand the health and wellness industry. To learn more, head to jacktaylorpr.com/fit. That's FITT. Hi, Sam. Welcome to Fitt Insider. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting today. Certainly a lot to get into. And maybe just to kick things off, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about Bird&Be?
I'm Sam. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders at Bird&Be. And we are a fertility health brand on a mission to grow families faster. And we do this through at-home products that have been developed by doctors.
That's awesome. And just in terms of context, maybe for the listeners, how would you describe either the stage or how many years or how many employees, just anything to kind of give the context of where the company is now and kind of how long you've been at it?
We are still an early stage company. We've been on the market just about a year and a half now. And we've got about 7 members of our full-time team and then another 7 or 8 contract part-time team members, small but mighty, very agile, quick-moving team.
Yeah, it's been, we've gotten to know the team. We invested in the company kind of early on and have watched just how quickly and how mighty the team is, albeit small to your point. And have been super impressed both with the vision and the execution, which are two very different things. But in terms of arriving at this kind of problem or even starting this company, what's the origin story? How do you, think to yourself, this is what I want to be working on, and then go about like actually bringing that to life?
Well, my own story and the story of my co-founders and so many people in our community sound the exact same. I think the majority of us on our own team all started out with I wish I had done X earlier, or I wish I had known X earlier. And that all has related to our own infertility journeys. And we literally hear this echoed every single day in the fertility community, on social media, in our inbox. I wish I had known earlier. I think for all of us, this really comes down to early education. If you think back to sort of high school or even university, college, we're really, really taught about pregnancy prevention. That's like the core of sort of the health class we're given in like grade 10 gym. Don't have sex or you're going to get pregnant. And that, that's a fair lesson at that point in time. 16-year-olds are certainly more fertile often than somebody who's 36. So those lessons are fair. What we're missing, though, is that education that can help us be proactive really, really early on. And this is something that, again, we've all faced as we sort of come up through our 20s and into our 30s and started working on growing our families. My own personal story, I co-founded and ran a consumer PR agency here in Canada, and I was dealing with mostly beauty brands for my entire career. And at the same time I was running my agency, I was growing my family, and I was struggling with PCOS, which affects about 10% of the population, and struggling with pregnancy loss, which affects 1 in 4 pregnancies. So there's a lot of other folks dealing with the issues I was dealing with, but I felt completely alone in what I was going through because not everybody at the time was talking about it, and there wasn't the same kind of open dialogue around these issues. And as I sort of got deeper and deeper into the fertility journey, I was seeing a fertility specialist. I wish I had known. I wish I had known. There were things that I could have done a lot earlier on. One of them was to see a doctor a lot earlier on. And as I navigated sort of the clinical piece of the journey, I was introduced to fertility naturopath. And that opened up my eyes to this whole other piece of the sort of the path to growing your family and the other things that you can do outside of just the medical clinical piece to support, healthy eggs, healthy sperm, healthy pregnancy. And that's sort of what was the initial aha moment for me. Like, hey, why don't we know all of these things earlier? And then B, like, once we find them out, it can be a very confusing experience. How can we simplify this for other people?
Yeah, I think all those things, you know, to your point, it's in conversation with friends, right? We've basically reached that point in my life where myself, my wife, our friends are having kids, starting to think about having kids, trying to navigate the whole process. And at every kind of turn, it's just like, wait, what? Just like another, we didn't know about this. Who do we talk to about that? What types of things do we need to be doing to prepare? And even now, not necessarily knowing where to get those answers or what to do or who to trust. So it can be both like confusing, but also like very discouraging, just in terms of trying to make sense of it all and kind of understanding where to turn. As went through that and start to experience it, is it a matter of saying, this is one of the things that I love about the kind of health and wellness industry in general, but also kind of very passionate, ambitious founders is a lot of times it comes from the kind of aha moment from that personal experience, right? They kind of run up against something, somebody in their family suffered from a particular disease or ailment. They personally tried to make a lifestyle change and weren't able to figure it out. And then they're like, hey, if there's nowhere for me to do this, like I'm gonna start that company myself. It sounds like it was a similar type of experience for you. Is that where the initial kind of idea was planted, and then starting to say, which is also a huge challenge, like it already doesn't make sense necessarily to a lot of us. How do you then demystify that for people and start to put those pieces together yourself?
Well, that was exactly it. So I came together with our medical founders as well as my business co-founders, and there was all of these problems that we wanted to solve. And I think the biggest piece, I guess the way to streamline it, sort of from our thought process perspective, was like, how do we take the at-home piece, because there's the clinic piece that some people will need, and there's nothing you can do about that. And that requires doctors, clinical equipment. It requires a physical presence at a clinic. And then there's this at-home piece, which can support you all the way through the journey. And there's so many elements to this at-home piece. It's like, what are you taking? What are you doing in your life? How are you exercising? What are you eating? What education do you need? Are you able to do some of these screening tests at home? All of these pieces that you're having to put together yourself. How can we make this simplified? How can we give people the information that they need that is doctor verified, and give them like one place to go to really help them direct that journey and increase their access? It's like, how do we get them this access? And then how can we accelerate that access to care? Because the timing of this in the fertility world is often critical, and it really does impact outcomes, how quickly you can get to care, especially depending on your age. And it's funny because there was a study that came out, honestly, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, that literally mirrored our market research at the beginning, which was obviously very validating for us. But it said that almost half of fertility patients are learning about supplements from their family and friends first, more than a quarter of them from the internet, and less than 8% from actual medical professionals. So people are literally in the bottom of the internet trying to find information about what to do, what to take. They're taking like 19 bottles of supplements. They don't even know why they're taking what they're taking. They're on like every fad diet. They're reading these studies that truly are meant to be interpreted by medical professionals, and they're making assumptions. And it's so confusing And on top of that, like all of this additional research is like the secret second job of fertility patients. It's like a full-time job on top of a full-time job on top of a full-time job. And it can take a huge emotional toll as well, from a stress level perspective, from a relationship perspective. And then don't even start talking about the financial perspective, because you're buying all this stuff and then you end up in treatment. The whole thing is just an extremely stressful experience. So we wanted to fix as much of that as we could.
Yeah. And so now, from your personal experience to kind of anecdotal and market research to studies coming out that are kind of validating this approach, maybe it'd be helpful to kind of even talk about what does it, we could talk about where you started and maybe what it's grown to now, or kind of however we back into what is the offering when people, customers, either go to the website, get in contact, learn about Bird&Be. What are you able to provide them, and kind of what does that offering, product wise, experience wise, how do you anticipate that kind of continuing to evolve based on what you're both learning about customers and what they need, and also what you think needs to be brought into the market?
Totally. So we at Bird&Be, we start off with education, and that comes in two forms. We have our doctor verified and vetted educational content that's put out on all of our platforms, and it is very clear, simplified information about reproductive health, pregnancy and postpartum, again, verified or written by doctors, that people can learn about their reproductive health, learn what kind of warning signs they need to spot, learn about what they need to eat, drink, do, don't do, the at-home piece to complement sort of the clinical piece as you go through. And then the second piece of that education is the early screening tests. So we provide a few different types of at-home tests for females and males. The male part is super, super important, which we need to talk about, that give people information about their reproductive health easily, early, and at home. So you're not needing to send out results. You're not needing to go into a clinic. Results are delivered at home within 10 minutes, and then you understand a little bit more about where you're at, and you can then take next steps. And those next steps for some people might involve going to see a fertility doctor. And what we can provide immediately is our clinical grade supplements. And we provide these to folks, again, at all stages of their journey, from preconception all the way through to IVF, if that's what they're doing, pregnancy and postpartum, breastfeeding. We cover off every single piece of the journey. And again, these have been developed by fertility doctors specifically, so that people know what they're getting is what has been recommended on the clinical level.
And in terms of, you mentioned what that looks like today, whether it's from a product roadmap or looking at opportunity across the landscape, how do you anticipate that kind of offering evolving and continuing to meet the needs of, people who are trying to make sense of, fertility, conception, pregnancy, postpartum, all those things?
I think where we're at today is, from a supplement perspective, we have a really great sort of base product offering, and we've got something for everyone. And then we've been able to further customize some of these base products so folks can add on certain types of supplements. And this is directed through a quiz on our website. So we don't leave them hanging at any point. They come on, they do the quiz, and they are matched with the right products for them. They can choose to add on certain products depending on, if they're going through IVF, if they're in their second or third trimester, if they're breastfeeding. And then in the future, I think we'll be able to further and further customize some of these offerings. We're already working on a PCOS supplement, endometriosis supplement, and then there are a lot of subfertility categories that we're going to be developing products for. And then on the testing side, we have one sort of big test coming down the pipeline at the end of this year, which will be our ovarian reserve screening test. It's something people can do, again, at home. And then even further down the road, we're working on another test, still under wraps, but again, giving people more information to understand their reproductive health, where they're at, and if they do need to seek assistance from a doctor earlier on than they may have otherwise if they didn't have access to this kind of test, while at the same time keeping things as affordable and accessible as possible. I think the stat is 40% of females of reproductive age in the US don't live within geographical access to fertility clinics or physical fertility care. So giving people access from an at-home sort of method is what we're really trying to support with.
Hey everyone, we'll get back to the show in just a second. But first, I wanted to tell you about our exclusive PR partner, Jack Taylor. Honestly, this one's a no brainer. We've known the Jack Taylor team for years. They work with some of the most innovative health and wellness companies. We're talking Whoop, Athletic Greens, Hyperice, and many more. Jack Taylor has an extensive industry network, knows how to work with high growth companies, and really invests in building long term relationships. I know this firsthand because they're Fit Insider's PR agency, so I can confidently recommend them, and I do all the time. From startups to more established brands, they go beyond pushing product to help companies truly thrive. To learn more, head to jacktaylorpr.com/fit. That's FITT. Now back to the show. Yeah, even the at home and also the education piece that you talked about when mentioning kind of starting there with the platform, the content. One of the things that I wanted to touch on, you mentioned kind of early on, partnering with doctors and experts. You mentioned the content being developed or written by doctors, the supplements being recommended. Obviously, hugely important, just given how things tend to get. When you're just searching around on the internet, as you mentioned, trying to make things make sense to yourself, relying on who knows what source, whether it's vetted or science backed, approved by a doctor. But then just the other piece of building the platform and the products on this basis of clinical research. How did you establish those relationships? Maybe from your perspective, why is that so important, and how do you kind of walk the line between this being doctor approved, science backed, and maybe all of the various wellness trends that exist and emerge, and helping people take that into consideration, but also continue to make decisions based on what you've actually seen kind of research behind.
Totally. So I think at, on the surface, we're a consumer brand. We look like a consumer brand. We talk like a consumer brand. We walk like a consumer brand. That was really important to me because I was working in consumer products. And when I was going through my own fertility journey, and I would go to the store and buy my 800 vitamins or pregnancy tests every couple weeks, the actual packaging was so triggering for somebody who had been going through a lengthy fertility journey as well as pregnancy loss. All the packages had either like a white pregnant woman on the front, or it was like literal zooming in of their belly, or it was like a fat little white baby on the box. And, you know, for a lot of people, that is just not reflective of who they are or where they're at. It's also very gendered. Everything was pink and blue. And again, for a lot of folks, that's just not something that they identify with. So changing the face of the products and the brand was something I was so passionate about. But then layering in what's most important, which is the clinical grade piece of it and the doctor recommended piece of it, it changes the accessibility piece, because previously, if you wanted, and for myself in my own journey, if I wanted to get clinical grade products from the source of a medical professional, I needed an appointment. I needed an appointment with either a doctor or a naturopath. Naturopathic doctors are incredible resources. They cost upwards of $300 an hour for just that first intake appointment. And that's just not something that's accessible to everyone. And again, accessibility is a huge problem within infertility. It's a disease that certainly does not discriminate. We've got 1 in 6 folks suffering from it, but access to care does. It absolutely discriminates. And going through the process myself and seeing how many other people were going through this as well, I knew that was something that we really needed to focus on, getting folks access to this type of clinical grade product and care. So what we did is I was seeing one of the fertility NDs that I was seeing, who's actually on our team now. We wanted to digitize her and her team. We wanted to make this an experience that, again, we could get the recommendations for each sort of different type of subfertility patient and create this online algorithm where people can come onto our website, they can take this quiz, and it's that digital intake experience that they would have with the doctor if they were seeing a doctor. So it literally will take the answers to their questions and create a product recommendation for them. And the products themselves were put together in a way that, again, hits those therapeutic level doses and has been entirely backed by science and evidence. So our doctors have a significant history in R&D, product development, as well as in clinical work. All of the doctors on our team still work clinically with patients. And they took the evidence that has been published in the fertility space specifically, so not just general health, but fertility specific, and they dosed our products based on the evidence to support fertility specifically, egg health, as well as sperm health. So what we've got in our products, like we have the product that's recommended for folks going through IVF, we've got up to 600 milligrams of CoQ10. Most products on the market, they're hitting under that 100 milligram level of CoQ10. So we have truly therapeutic dosed products.
Yeah, that's really important. I think the part that you mentioned too, and this is really, I think, where a brand like yours can, really separate itself is oftentimes you hear, whether it's a company kind of in the wellness space or elsewhere, that they're talking about the technology that they're using, or they're talking about the research that they have, or the, how it's been clinically validated, all of which is obviously super important. And ultimately, from a consumer perspective, that's what you want. You want the best of the best, and to know it's from a brand that you can trust. But I think ultimately it's like, you don't want to have to worry about that. You don't want to have to vet that yourself. You don't want to have to go and read those studies and that research. You don't want to have to essentially become a doctor or an expert researcher just to feel like, oh, is this product, is this brand something I can trust? So creating that in a way through a consumer product that checks that box and gives people that certainty without saying like, and oh, by the way, you have to go and double, triple check and make sure that we're doing what we say. Like, no, we're delivering all of that to you. And that's kind of like part of the magic of, now where consumer brands are intersecting with, almost blurring the line into healthcare or preventative care, or at least clinical grade products. I think it's super exciting and really powerful, especially when you talk about, a category that is already underserved and where people need more access. Now, the other piece of that that I wanted to get to, kind of having that foundation laid, is how is it that you've been able to grow the business, reach consumers, get people onto the site, customer acquisition, all the other pieces that now come into play when you talk about, you know, growing revenue, growing the company, and doing it in a way where, which also creates kind of a challenge, right? You're blurring those lines again, where even to the marketing you mentioned, when you were going to the store and looking at the packaging and looking at the messaging, how are you now approaching that as you, I'm sure, using social media, doing growth marketing, paid ads, customer acquisition, to say like, this is what we want to kind of present ourselves as to customers, and like, this is what's actually working?
Well, we as a team are customer zero. We have lived infertility. We have lived so many elements of the journey. There is a member of our team for every single possible infertility issue that could be out there. We have members of our team currently going through IVF, IUI. We have had a number of folks on our team go through loss, as well as more recently getting pregnant. So we have experienced all of the pain points that our community has experienced, and we are customer obsessed, absolutely obsessed. The way that we have structured everything we do, from the way we speak, the type of content we put out there, our social media, our packaging, from the actual product perspective, the exact products that we have created, we have created this essentially for us and then validated it that in the market that other people also want this. Other people also want these types of products, and they want to be spoken to in a way that exudes empathy and compassion, because that's where we came from. We have sort of used a couple of strategies, and then there's a couple of things that happened that we actually didn't expect that are the source for a lot of our growth and success. We have worked with a ton of folks on TikTok and Instagram in the micro influencer community. And to be honest, most of this has been through organic partnerships where we have sent folks products They've used them, they've loved them, and then they've started sharing them. And we always joke it's sort of rare to see people dancing around with their vitamins and their pregnancy tests on TikTok, but our community does. They're so happy and proud to be waving around these products, even those that are struggling, because the brand has given a voice to the struggle, and the brand has addressed this community in a way that I think has we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for more of the spotlight and attention on something that affects truly so many people. We have also been working with doctors, and there's a lot of doctors who are out there on social media, or organizations who are out there on social media, that we've been able to partner with, again, on truly from an organic perspective, because of what we're doing. And what we're doing is based in science and research, and we've been able to share that science and research. And they've been willing to do all kinds of different partnerships with us, from talking about endometriosis to genetic testing to the mental health piece, to relationship struggles. All kinds of different professionals from the medical profession have worked with us on all different kinds of content. And then there was the piece that we were hoping for but didn't quite expect so early, which was that doctors actually started to prescribe our products to patients in clinic. And through our own medical network, we were reaching out and sharing the products with some folks in the infertility, reproductive endocrinology community, as well as the fertility naturopath community. It was sort of contained. And then what happened was we had customers that started sharing it with their doctors. And then doctors started coming to us and saying, oh, can we perhaps sell the product in our dispensaries? We have tons of doctors, and I get these emails almost every day just saying, hey, I've been recommending your products to patients. I'm seeing incredible results. And that's sort of from a very organic sort of swell, we started having all of these folks in the medical field actually taking notice of what we were doing and prescribing. And then what happened was we had a number of doctors and their patients who were dealing with male factor infertility actually improve their sperm quality. And we knew that we knew that the product worked because, again, it's based in research and science, but we were seeing it in real time. So the male patient would have a semen analysis, would be identified as having male factor, poor sperm quality. They would take our Power Prenatal for 3 months, have their repeat semen analysis, and they saw motility, morphology go from abnormal to normal, improved DNA fragmentation. And their doctors were like, well, this is great. We can be saving you folks a lot of time and funds if we can work on some of the elements of the infertility issue through lifestyle changes. And again, these are motivated patients. These are patients who are taking supplements, but they're also not eating McDonald's 4 times a day anymore. They've made other improvements as well. And that's the education piece that we like to tie into all of this is you can take high quality nutrients and antioxidants to support your sperm and egg health, to support your overall health, but you also need to make lifestyle changes in conjunction with what you're taking.
Yeah, I think all of that hugely important. It's funny to hear you talk about, ultimately what you wanted to have happen happened, right? It's getting kind of referred and recommended from doctors. And now it's just a matter of kind of keeping up with that. Of course, you want to continue to see the success of those patients and hear those kind of success stories. So you think about the kind of micro influencer partnerships, continuing to do some of those things now, kind of pushing deeper into the kind of clinical setting, getting those referrals, recommendations. Is there anything that you've kind of identified as now either pushing deeper on those things, doubling down, or other areas that you think can help kind of get to that next level where you're excited to maybe tackle?
The clinical piece for us is where we're doubling down. Again, it was on our roadmap, just not this early, but we've seen such incredible support and uptake from the folks in the infertility community that we are absolutely going to be focusing on this going forward. We want to be in or working with at least 10% of the clinic market. We want to be the supplement of choice to support patient success. We also make it easy for doctors, and that's part of the reason why we've seen such great uptake from doctors, because they don't have to sit and speak with their patients for 30 minutes about vitamins. They don't necessarily always have the time to do that. There's long wait lists for these doctors, and they want to be able to help as many folks as possible in the course of a day. So they're able to say, here's the product. It's very easy. It's one single product. All of the pills that you need come in your one little simple daily sachet. You're not buying 800 bottles. One thing, go and take it. And if you have any questions, the Bird&Be team is there to support and answer. And we've been able to take that piece off of the doctors and the admin staff at these clinics and really support them with freeing up some of that time and alleviating confusion. We've also been able to support with adherence, because if you know the supplement world and you're taking, all these different vitamins every day, or you're counting every Sunday your pills into the pill cases, a lot of folks just can't keep up with that. It's just another job on top of all of the jobs that you're taking on. So we've made it super easy. And adherence means that people will actually see the results. They won't stop halfway through sort of the course of their treatment or routine.
Yeah, a ton of opportunity there and kind of huge value that you're able to bring on that side. I think maybe just a couple more questions before we get you out of here. I also wanted to talk about, you know, starting this company, building the team, gaining the traction, kind of checking all the boxes as you continue to go down the list, which is awesome to see. How have you approached the fundraising piece, continuing to fund the company? How do you anticipate that, into the future? And, maybe whether or not it's gone how you expected, or challenges or successes there. Just your perspective on that, I think, would be really valuable.
Yeah, we started off raising money with an idea and a team. And at the time, I thought it was wild, because I hadn't done any fundraising before. And I thought it was wild that people were saying, like, this is great. I'm in. And we took that so seriously and deeply. Truly, the faith that various investors put into us meant the world. And we as a team committed to delivering on everything that we said we would. And we have. We've exceeded all projections. We have done every single thing on our roadmap so far that we have said we were going to do. And it was truly important to me to make sure that they felt like we had taken their investment absolutely seriously and to heart. We're now in a place where we're ready for more growth. We've now had product in market for over a year. We're ready for that next round of financing where we actually have product in market. We have revenue and traction. And so now we're going through the process of raising more money in order to really rocket ship that growth, build out some new products, build out some new revenue pipelines, and truly just grow and grow this company as big and as fast as we can.
Yeah. And that's, it's something from our side that's always, you know, encouraging to see, and very, I think what you're talking about is like taking it seriously and executing, putting that, achieving the things that you had on the roadmap, and potentially doing them faster than maybe you even anticipated to do. We think of that as just like super high integrity, right? The type of people that they do the thing they say they're going to do, especially with startups, especially in a very tough market, that can be challenging. So being able to do that and continue to execute against those goals, super impressive. And I think kind of looking forward, as you kind of lay out, you talked about some new tests coming down, continuing to double down on some of these clinical, doctor partnerships, thinking about raising additional funding, and just the kind of offering the product offering, in general, for folks that are interested in learning more. They want to check out the products. They want to kind of see what Bird&Be is all about. Where would you point them? Is the website the best place to go? Social, newsletter? Where's the kind of starting point for you guys?
Come see us at birdandbe.com, and we will link you out from there to our social media. Our TikTok and Instagram is an absolute amazing wealth of medical knowledge. All of our doctors co-star on our TikTok and Instagram feeds. They, at the beginning, said they never would. They said, do not put me on your social media. And they have since changed their tune. They all now have filming equipment in their homes. We've totally converted them because people absolutely need this information. They've seen how incredibly they can affect the journeys of some people by educating on some of the basics that I wish we had learned in high school, in university, in college, in our early and even mid 20s. I wish we had learned what was normal, what is abnormal, what to look out for, all the different things that they're talking about on our platforms. We're here to educate, and we really, really want to support people all the way through their journeys.
Yeah. And for folks that are interested in that, we'll have the information in the show notes. And of course, that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on today, was to, kind of shed some more light on the topic and hopefully, continue to help educate people on it. So Sam, thanks for joining us today. It was great to chat.
Thank you for having me.
One more thing before you head out. Help us spread the word. Take a minute to rate and review the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, or share this episode with a friend. And if you like conversations like this, you'll love the Fitt Insider newsletter. We send it every Tuesday. The link is in the description. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you back here next week.